Can you just tell us one memory which you have now of your father? Society, we see that whenever we fill the forms in the school or university, everywhere now recently it has started that they have started asking for mother's name, but till quite some time it was just father's name which was very important to say. Upbringing of a son and upbringing of a daughter made a difference for a father back in that era and now. But why was that perception then? Then why did people think that, sons will be of more value and daughters wouldn't? Why?
They used to feel that, daughters are, once they get married, they become somebody else's.
So I'd like to know, how is parenting different for a father? Parenting a daughter and parenting a son?
Well, first of all, I had two daughters.
Yeah.
And there are very many interesting stories where I always impressed upon the other side that there is no difference between sons and daughters.
We've seen that some children treat their father especially just as an ATM machine.
I think it depends on the upbringing, if you ask me really.
So if you have to compare, how is parenting in India different than parenting abroad?
It's very different from here to Europe and USA.
A male is given a custody of a child. So do you think they will be capable enough to take care of the child, yes or no, if they are loving their child?
Yes and no, I would say.
If you wanted to say one thing to your dad, what would that be?
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Hello and welcome to my channel Unheard Tales, where I bring stories which are sometimes unspoken, unheard and sometimes lost in this hustle bustle of life. Today, we are going to talk about a person whose name is being taken by us since years, but we rarely take a moment to understand his pain and love. I am talking about none other than your dad, father. And this episode is dedicated to all those fathers who has worked hard for all his life without expressing those unconditional love which he has in his heart. So today, let's welcome our special guest, Mr. Vinay Maravarji. Welcome
Hello.
On my show.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I know that you have lived different, roles in your life. You have been a son, you have been a father, you have been a good husband, and then a good father-in-law. Then you are now grandparent. So I would like to know from you, I would like to go back in time and ask, how was your relationship with your father back then when you were a child? Was it a relationship of love or fear?
Very interesting question. I always like to talk about my father because my father was a role model for me. Not for me, for all the siblings. He had an aura where, he was always very honest, straightforward. He was very austere, and more than that, the values that he inculcated in all of us, okay, those are, forever. And those will possibly those have been cascading into my next generation.
Okay.
So simply, our father was our role model.
The reason why I asked you this question, because I am not sure what was in the era where you were with your father,
right.
but I know about my era with my parents, and there were fathers who were so busy in their schedule because my dad was also in railways, so sometimes they even did not know in which class we studied. So mother was like in the home as a homemaker. They were the one who used to make sure that you're studying. And dad was like, what you want to study? Tell me the course and I get you enrolled.
Right.
So that has been a kind of a...
Yeah, well, I don't think the situation was very different that time. First of all, we were 6 brothers. So you can imagine your father not recalling what exactly we were studying, what standard. So my father, 6 children. So even it used to happen with him also. He was busy with his teaching profession, okay, and mother was a anchor to the family, okay, but none of them forced any time any issues. We had a freedom of thought. At the same time, I would say that on basic values, he was a disciplinarian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Okay. So we never dared to do anything wrong. Okay. So therefore, there were no conflicts. But otherwise, he was a disciplinarian, and we had some kind of a, I wouldn't say fear. I would say the right word would be respect, not even fearful respect, but respect where we knew that we had to follow his instructions as far as the basic rules are concerned.
So it was great to know about how you were so disciplined by your father. Now I'd like to know, can you just tell us one memory which you have now of your father?
I think I would like to talk about his honesty, the kind of hatred for corruption, etc. I was a small child. It's a very interesting story. I used to do some sketching, etc. by chalks. I was a child, and my stock of chalks got exhausted. So my father was a professor, and he was using chalks those days on the blackboard. So I always thought that maybe he's getting the chalks from the college. But one day when I asked him why he could not get the chalks, so he said the shop was closed. My eyes were wide open that time, that he always bought even the chalks from the shop and then gave it to me.
Okay.
So even he wouldn't get the chalks even from the college. So that's the kind of principled person he was.
So now I would like to ask you one question, that during those days and even now, father has been the financial pillar of a family.
Yeah.
So I'd like to know, when it comes to education, now we know that we have working moms, we have educated moms, and they are also now teaching their children. And so I would like to just know from you, your time and your dad's era. So did your dad help you in your studies, and did you help your children in their studies?
Very interesting. First of all, he was a professor, so obviously educationist family. But at the same time, in our family, there was a total freedom. I don't remember he having said any time to us to study more or whatever. There was no coercion. There was absolutely no pressure. We were self-starters. So we did the studies on our own. Absolutely no fixed rule for studies, because we were self-starters, and he was confident about it. Same way is now about me. I never forced my daughters about studies. They had total freedom to study the way they want, select the courses they wanted, and that's how they have turned out to be the self-starters.
Okay. So I would like to know, because we are talking about an era which is back, I would say, around, I think, maybe 50, 60 years ago. So that time India was very different, and parenting itself was very different. So can you just explain us how has the role of a father was defined then in the society? What was the role of father in the family, Indian families back then, before, like, I think 50, 60 years ago?
Yeah, I think you're right. The things have been changing very fast, but those days, traditionally, the role of father was to support the family financially and support the family for their education, and also save for the future.
And also save for the future.
That's very important. Today, that's not the case. That's not required. But mostly supporting the family financially, and giving them good education, inculcating good values, and supporting the family in all the, I would say, areas, because the mother's role was more of a homemaker.
Yeah.
Many a times the ladies were not fully educated, because that is how the family was defined that time. Today the situation is changed, but that time traditionally father was the head of the family and mother was a homemaker. Yeah.
So now I would also like to know, as you said, and I couldn't get it, that in family, fathers are given a huge amount of respect, and we treat them with respectfully. Whenever he says something, it is like a norm which has to be followed by everybody in the family. We listen it very carefully. So now when it goes to the society, we see that whenever we fill the forms in the school or university, everywhere now recently it has started that they have started asking for mother's name, but till quite some time it was just father's name which was very important to say. Why was it so in the society, and why is it so important to have father's name and his surname in your name and documents? What is your opinion, and is it only in India or across the globe?
Very good subject. Since of course I'm very much elder to you, maybe a previous generation, I have seen those days and these days, the transition taking place. That time, as I mentioned earlier, father was a head of the family and mother was a homemaker, right? So father being a head of the family, in the society also he had that kind of standing. Okay, and I do not know the reason why father's name only was like a middle name. I wouldn't know the history. Okay, but that's changing fast. Because my daughter lives in USA, and I have seen American families and Indian families there. They are little more liberal on this aspect. The middle name is a choice of the father and mother for the child, and both have equal say because both of them are working, both of them are contributing to the family in the same way, right? So those are gone are those days where the woman will only work for home. Both of them contribute even for household things, house chores, So same way, commensurate with that, now the middle names are also very at a discretion used either mothers or fathers. Same way is the surname even. Okay, surnames are also both surnames are used sometimes.
Now in India it has started.
So same way there as well as here, maybe more there, less here. There the ladies do not even change the name. So things are changing, and to me, any freedom of thought and choice is welcome as far as I am concerned.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
So I would like to ask you one question, that how have upbringing of a son and upbringing of a daughter made a difference for a father back in that era and now?
Yeah, I think traditionally in India there is a huge discrimination between son and a daughter. People plan the life course depending on whether they will have son or a daughter, which is wrong. As a daughter also, they can be very supportive. I mean, I can take example of myself. I got two daughters. I never felt a difference, and they are as supportive as they would have been if I had sons. So I think it's a very wrong perception and wrong tradition, which should change now for the better. There should not be.
But why was that perception then? Then why did people think that sons will be of more value and daughters wouldn't? Why?
I think again the tradition. They used to feel that daughters are once they get married, they become somebody else's. They go away from you, etc. And the sons, they remain with you, so they will support you, etc. But as we see many examples in the society, that the daughters have kind of proved this wrong. They are very close to their parents, even post the marriage. Okay, and we are also experiencing the same. Although I don't have for comparison a son, but I don't repent. I mean, I had two daughters, so they are so loving and they are so supportive. We never felt a difference.
And that's exactly, I would say, a father should feel when they are parenting a girl or a child. They should not make a difference. And I think things are changing already, and we
changing,
can
yes.
see that change in India.
Yeah.
Now I think it's gone those era when
Yeah.
people were actually, dying to have a son in the family. They used to have, say, 4 or 5 daughters, and then they used to have one son.
Yeah.
So that era is gone, and now people are happy. Even if they have a daughter, one daughter is enough, and they're happy. And I think that is the positive side of it, how India should.
I think we should thank the present governments also, central government, the state government. They have so many schemes to encourage the well-being of the girls and the women. There's so many initiatives. So obviously they are indicative of the corrective action that they want to take in this direction.
Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao was
so many. So that's good, really good.
I would like to know one thing from you, is that how has parenting of a daughter and parenting of a son has changed in those era and now?
Well, first of all, from generation to generation, almost like 2 generations now from those days, things have changed. Earlier, the girls and the women, they were mostly remaining at home. Education was not so common. Jobs done by women or girls were very few. Today, situation is changed. So they have to move out. They have to take care of themselves. So that's the main difference. Okay. So naturally, that time the parents were more protective because the girls were not moving out so much, right? Yeah. But now the situation is changed. So girls have to come out. Okay. So parents, they don't have to think so much about it. If the girl or a lady is going out every day for work, okay, are the parents supposed to keep on worrying about them every day? No. That's the point.
So now coming back to when you were parent and when you started parenting, so I'd like to know, how is parenting different for a father, parenting a daughter and parenting a son? How does it make difference? Is there a difference to your opinion of how you parent both genders?
Well, first of all, I had 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And there are very many interesting stories where I always impressed upon the other side that there is no difference between sons and daughters. They have to be treated equally in the society, otherwise also, right? So my view is very firm. It does not matter what gender it is. Both have to be given equal treatment. Okay. So in my family, I have 2 daughters and I have followed the same rule. I never thought that they're daughters, so why should I do this? Why should not I do that? Never. My first priority was inculcate the values, what I learned from my father, so that they become good human beings. Okay. Secondly, education as a second priority, and give the best education to them, give them freedom of choice, what they want to do and excel in life, which they have done. Okay. So I have kind of vindicated my principle and thought process of making this happen. Really.
Okay. That's absolutely wonderful to know, Uncle. Now I would also, there was a reason why I asked, because society was not the same in those days while you were raising children. So fathers might be more protective during those days, raising a girl, keeping society in mind, and sons were left a little free those days, and girls' parents were very protective. Like if she has to go outside, parents were very protective. That so with that aspect, how has the things changed, or how was it years ago?
Right.
In terms of safety and in terms of how, like if you have to send a daughter to studies in hostel or something, people were fearful. They used to think a lot. Now it's the same. But how was that there in those days?
I think it is changed to some extent. First of all, those days the crime rate was less. Okay.
Crime rate was less?
Less that time. Now it is more.
Is it?
Yes. That's what my perception.
Okay.
You hear now and then things happening. Those days it was more peaceful. So that's one difference, where there was a not as a society's perception and principle, but otherwise there was a safer atmosphere for children and women to move around, right? secondly, as far as the situation is concerned, now the girls and the ladies, they have to move out because they are working.
Yeah.
So I don't think there is any option. Only thing is they have to take care of themselves. Okay. And at home, the parents do get worried sometimes when they are traveling alone or they are traveling distance, they are traveling to other countries. But then, my both the daughters, they travel so much. I have now decided not to worry too much about them because they can take care of themselves.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
So things are changing in the
Things are
society, you would
changing,
say.
plus minus. I mean, certain things are better that time. Certain things are changed and different now.
What are those things which you think?
As I said, they have to move out compulsorily. Okay, so we don't have to worry too much about this. They have to take care of themselves. They know how to do it also. Okay. Secondly, as far as the crime rate is concerned, as I said, now one has to be more careful.
Now, I'd like to ask you another question because you learned so many things from your father. So when you were parenting your children, so what was the most important thing which you, by hook or crook, wanted to inculcate in your child?
Yeah, good, very good question. In fact, whatever values he taught us, the same have been passed on to our daughters. Be truthful, honest, self-starter, then austere. Okay, and even the same values, luckily, have been taught in one of the very good schools in Thane, Singhania School, and they are the students of Singhania School.
Oh.
Yeah, and these values, we are very happy to pass on those to them. So they are completely you can say carbon copy in terms of values. Like what we were. So I'm very proud of them. They are very truthful.
And they
always.
must be very proud of you being their daughter.
Yeah, because they saw us right from the birth, right when we are growing. See, it all depends on what is the atmosphere at home. Okay, so that's how they get developed.
So now, because I could understand that you were having a very good relationship with your daughter. So just a parenting tip for everybody, how should, because generally it is seen in general, not specifically to you, in general it is seen that kids are very fearful of their dad. They are not so free talking to their dad. They do not express their emotions to their dad so freely as they could explain themselves to mom. Right. So why is there such a fear in child's mind?
Yeah, traditionally yes, but talking of our family, I don't think that was the case. They were free to talk to both of us, and there was no fear in the family. Okay, and they were always very truthful, very straightforward. They won't hide anything. Okay, and they were very free with us.
No, just for being some father, if you have to give some tip to those fathers whose children are not very free to them, what would you suggest to them, that how should the relationship be built between the father and the kid?
I think I would say the most important is values. So there should be correct values to be inculcated in the children. That's number one, because that's what makes them good human beings. This one. Secondly, give them a free hand or free thought, or the freedom for thought. Let them decide what they want to become. Let them decide. Only in case of urgency only you intervene, otherwise not. And support their plans, support their education fully, support their ideas. Okay, and if you have some different ideas, give them, interact with them, but don't impose.
Okay, so interaction I think is the most important thing, which will bridge up those gaps which there's often seen is there in the family between a father and the child.
Yeah, right.
So now, when there's another question coming up in my mind, that parents, sometimes it is also seen, not in every family, but sometimes it is seen that some children treat their father especially just as an ATM machine. So if they have to go and ask for money, they just think that, Papa is an ATM machine, and they just keep asking for things. So I would not say that it is so generous of a father that they try to work so hard and fulfill all the needs. But why is it so? Why sometimes they are just treated as an ATM machine?
I think it depends on the upbringing, if you ask me really.
Yeah.
If the requirements are reasonable, then one should meet those requirements. Again, in our family, the situation was different. The
I'm just asking in general, like
but
why?
in general, yes, in general, I think because as I said, traditionally the father used to earn, so he becomes a ATM machine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but now that is not the situation. Now things are changed, right? But still, in most of the Indian families, father is considered to be head of the family. Okay, and any spending is discussed with the father and not mother.
Yeah.
It's still there. It's
So
still
why
there.
does it happen? Do you think that is it because sometimes I feel that is it like you keep addressing each of the requirement of your child, and then child has a perception that whatever I'll ask he's going to fulfill, and which is why he keeps on asking multiple times. Should there be times when parents should say no, this ask of yours is not reasonable and we are not going to fulfill?
Yeah.
Should that be done, or should they
Yes,
always
yes,
fulfill it?
obviously. See, first of all, the requirement should be reasonable. That is for sure. And secondly, in each family there is some kind of a budget. So certain requirements cannot be met. Third is priorities. What should be met and what should not be met. To me, any requirement which is related to education should be fulfilled. Any requirement which is in the luxury bracket, okay, you have to think.
Yeah, we need to rethink about
We
it.
have to rethink about it. Yes. So I think it's like prioritizing within the family what should be done, what should not be
What
done
should not
with
be done.
respect to the demands of the children.
Children.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to know that how is parenting, because you said that your children are staying abroad, so you have seen life both sides across the globe. So if you have to compare, how is parenting in India different than parenting abroad?
Well, I have not done the parenting abroad, but my
you have
daughter,
you have seen them
my
parenting.
daughter did her post graduation etc. in USA. So I just want to give a difference. It's not a difference. There are two small stories. When my daughter went to US for higher education, I always told her that if you need money, just give me a shout and I'll transfer the funds. And believe me, she did what she did, I don't know, but she managed her own financials, education, and not a single time she came back to me asking for any funds. Now, this is the difference between a child who has been inculcated values of austerity, etc. Okay, and there are some children who live a luxurious life and then their demands are unlimited. So they would always ask for funds, right? Now you are asking about the parenting, difference in parenting is very different from here to Europe and USA. There, the parents support them up to the graduation level, and once they are graduated, they are supposed to be living independently. They move out of house. There's a major difference. Whereas we are with our children, till they get married, they are with us almost. Once they get married, then only they move out.
Now, when you said that the children get married, I would like to ask a very interesting question here. That till the children are married, you have a different equation with them. So every decision made in their life, may it be son or a daughter, they come and ask for a seal from their father, that should I do this, should I not do this, and then suddenly that piece of your heart goes to a different family. So how does that change happen? Like, then how do you deal with those situations when you see your child going to a different family? Now you no longer have a control on deciding something for your children. So what opinion do you have for that? How does then the role of father change?
I think till the time they are not married, there is a responsibility as a father to keep overall control over the situation, to keep to keep in touch with them on each and every aspect of their life, etc., etc. And once they take up the job, then they become financially independent. Once they get married, then you get less and less time of theirs.
Yeah.
So it's a gradual process, and you have to just live with that.
Yeah.
Okay. But frankly speaking, our both loving daughters, they are in touch with us practically every day. One daughter lives in US. She's still in touch with us every day, sometimes morning, evening. And the daughter who is staying just close by in Thane, in Dehradun here, close by. So, absolutely no issues. She meets us very often on the weekend. So, I get the point that your question in general, okay, it will be painful, especially for the mothers, okay. Yeah. And father does not express, although he may feel bad, he may feel some kind of a emotion, but he won't express.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a typical, I think, physiological difference between a woman and a man.
Yeah. So now coming to my next question, where I would say in society we always talk about a mother's love for a child, and it is always so valued. So I would say indeed it is valuable and it is worth valuing, because she is the one who has brought you to the world. But then there is an equal contribution also from a father for bringing you to the universe. So do you think in the society, father is not so spoken about love and contribution towards the child? So what is your feeling for that?
I think both contribute in their own way, to be very frank, while upbringing the children. And I think the recognition that society gives to the mother and the father is commensurate with the contribution that they have done to bring up the child. So, for example, a lady will be always recognized as a homemaker, and a father would be always recognized as a head of the family. That differentiation is still not gone from India, at least. Okay, but as I said, things are changing fast. The ladies are also working, the girls are also working. So the balancing is changing. Okay, sometimes, as I said, that gets consequently reflected into naming and so on and so forth, as we discussed earlier. Okay, but it will take a long time for at least India to come out of this societal or traditional thought processes. Okay, some of them are good for us, some of them are not good for us. For example, there is a differentiation between a boy and a girl. That's not good. It has to be absolutely equal, right? So it will take time to become liberal as a nation, to bring some kind of improvements in this traditional I wouldn't say stigma. Changes.
And I think that is why it is also seen in cases of divorce, when there is a divorce between a couple. So we always see that father who wants to take a custody of their child is always not given custody so easily, which is there in abroad. The fathers get custody very easily for a child, but here you see men are not given the custody of child. Why is their parenting questioned in India?
I think the answer is again in our traditional values, where mother is looked at as the homemaker,
and more caring,
more caring, and expressing the emotions.
So
also.
Should that be changed? Should that perception be changed? What do you feel that if suppose a male is given a custody of a child, so do you think they will be capable enough to take care of the child, yes or no, if they are loving their child?
Yes and no, I would say. In certain cases where the mother has got a compulsion or a job wherein she cannot take care of the child, then case to case basis this should be decided. Okay, not only emotionally. Okay, but as I said, in general, traditionally in India, the mother takes care of the child.
That's why they are given the custody.
To the mother, it starts from there. Okay, the bonding, the expression, the emotion, all these are more visible between the mother and the children compared to the father and the children.
Right? I think this is where I think
Yeah.
now things are changing.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you see fathers have become more friendly,
Yeah.
and they are having a good interaction with their children, good relationship with their children. And I think now, even in India, we see cases where fathers are also getting custody of the child. So start building your relationship with your children.
Yeah.
And with this, I would also like to ask my last question to you.
Yeah.
Two questions basically.
Yeah.
One thing, if you wanted to say to your father, if your father was alive, if you wanted to say one thing to your dad, what would that be?
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Okay.
He has not just given something physical to us, but he has inculcated the values to make us good human beings. I think that is very, very important, and we always thank him for this.
And the next one.
Yeah.
If you have, on this Father's Day, if you have to send a message to all the fathers in India,
Yeah.
what would that be?
Again, inculcate the good values in your children. That is number one. Give them good education and make them self-starters, which means give them a freedom of thought. Let them think innovative and let them be on their own. They will give the best.
Yeah.
That's
and on
what I
top
would
of
say.
it, I would say you should start spending a lot of time with your children to understand their emotion, because nowadays, when technology has taken over everything, it becomes very important to spend time with your children
Yeah.
to understand their emotional need and address them so that they don't feel left out. So at the end, I would like to ask you, if you have to send out a message to all the fathers out there in India, what would that be?
Well, I think the first is, as I said earlier, the values that you have to inculcate in your children so that they become good human beings. Second one is prioritize their education, but give them full freedom as to what they should do so that they give the best. And third, but very important, in all the families, this would be a very important point, that there should be harmony at the level of parents, so that the atmosphere at home is very conducive, and the children are brought up in that atmosphere. That's very important.
And I think that's a very valid point raised by you, because it's very important to have a good and a friendly, calm environment in the family, especially the relationship of a husband and wife, I think, which
Yeah,
you said.
yeah.
Only then the children are going to have a good upbringing. So it was a very healthy note you have said.
Yeah. And I have to say one more thing, is that spending quality time with your spouse and the children every day is extremely important.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I think that is the basics of any family.
any family,
Only
yeah.
then you will have a family. Otherwise, it is just a few people, bunch of people staying under
Yeah,
one roof.
yeah,
It becomes a family only when you start
That's right.
spending time. It was such a wonderful discussion we had today, and such an insightful conversation we had. So thank you so much for coming on my show, Mr.
And
Vinay.
thank you, Divya, as a father.
So thank you so much for watching us on this special episode of Father's Day. And here I would like to give a huge round of applause to all the fathers who have raised their children with so much love in their heart and emotions in their heart, which are often unheard and not unexpressed. So this Father's Day, wishing all the men a very happy Father's Day. And thanks to all my audience who has been watching this show since so long. So I would like to request you all to subscribe to my channel. If you haven't subscribed my channel yet, please take a moment to subscribe my channel, like my channel, and share your opinion. How and what do you feel about being a father or about your father? Thank you so much.
Thank you.